I'm Lorenzo with Urban Farming Education. Over the last year, I've been filming a lot of gardens and gardeners, and long story short, I caught the gardening bug. So this is my backyard, and I'm actually going to set up my very own ready-go garden kit using the base 4-bag kit. So we've got 4 bags of soil here. This is their awesome soil. We've got this irrigation timer. So this is it's the automatic irrigation timer, so that's what makes it really easy to use. Then this is the Mainline, so that takes the water from your irrigation timer to the bag system. And this is called the drip tape. So this is what actually does the watering in the garden. So the kit's really simple to use, very user-friendly, and today I'm going to put it together and show you how it's done. This is my table that I'm putting my kit on, but remember you can do this kit on the floor as well. And setting it up is really easy. It's a lot easier to set it up on the floor, but just to show you, it comes with these pins. And so you slide it through the holes, get them lined up, and that is how this table comes together. And I painted mine yellow just for fun. So I'll be using the setup guide that comes with the kit, just for reference to make sure I got all the steps. And the first one is to lay the bags out on the table. So the next step is to make a rectangular cut, leaving a 2 to 3 inch border around the top of the bag. So we're going to take that plastic off, and that's going to expose the growing area. The soil in the Ready Go Garden Kit is really special. It's about 80% organic compost material, 15% porous material for drainage, and 5% living biological material. Okay, so if you're following along on the setup guide, you'll notice I skipped a step where I would place drainage slits in the bottom of each bag. That's what you'll do if you are setting up the bag system on the ground. Since this is the table variety, we're gonna actually, when I put in the staples that hold in the drip tape, that's gonna create the drainage for a table setup. Just wanted to let you know about that. The next step is setting up the irrigation system. Our automatic timer is kind of the heart of that system. So we gotta get this, we gotta put the battery in it. We'll attach it to the hose spigot. Main line will go here, that'll come out over here, and eventually we'll attach the drip tape, which is our irrigation line. Okay, so one simple thing that you're gonna wanna do is pop this bottom compartment off, and I'm gonna put this big battery in there. So that snaps into place, goes back into its little home, put the cover back on, and snaps finished. So this is just a best practice I want to mention, but this is something you probably have lying around the house, and this is thread seal tape. So there's a few different connections on here where they are threaded. So for example, here's kind of a base cap, and I just want to show you how to put this on, and it helps to just prevent leaks a bit. So I get it wrapped around the thread, and I'll just go around once or twice. Rip off the extra. So now when I put this back on, that tape just helps make this a lot more watertight and help prevent leaks. One of our next steps is to attach the poly tube to the output from the timer, the irrigation timer. So this big tube is going to slide onto this. It's got a little bit of a point to it that's going to help the hose slide on. It's kind of narrow on the edge, and that's going to help this to slide on here. And it does take some force because you want to really get some of the hose around it. So you can see now the end of my hose is probably around here. So now when I tighten this, that sort of pinches it here, and that's what creates the watertight seal there. So I'll just keep twisting that until it feels snug, and that will be a secure main line there. So here's the part that we'll be plugging into the hose spigot. And when it comes time to test the system, I'll open up this flap here, and you can see we've got a lot of different settings here. So one of them is for interval. That means how often this system is going to turn on. And the other one is runtime. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you can set that. So if you see here, one of the options says man, that's for manual. So that's what option I'll be choosing today, which just means it'll run as long as I tell it to run. So now with the polytube attached to the irrigation timer assembly, it's time to attach this part to the hose spigot. This one's really cool because it has a T here. So that means after I plug this into my spigot, I can actually still put a regular garden hose on this side. So that's a nice feature of this kit. And don't forget, it's always great to shore up those leaks with a little bit of that thread seal tape. So now I'm going to move over to the end of the table and I'm going to use these zip ties. They actually were what was holding the polytubing together in the box, but I was able to save them. If you didn't, that's fine, just use any old zip ties. But now I'm going to attach this polytubing to my table with these zip ties. Now that I've got the polytubing firmly attached to my table, polytubing is like the main line bringing the water to the garden, but I'm going to use the hole punch tool to make a couple holes in there, and that's where the drip tape is going to attach. And then the drip tape is what's going to go out into the garden and do the watering. All right, we've got the main line, aka the polytubing attached to the table. We got the holes in there. Now the drip tape at the end of it has these ball valves. These two things are where they're going to go into the holes that we just made. Now this kit's modular, so it can be a lot longer. You can have actually 16 bags in a row. I mean, the way you can customize it is really endless. So the point of that is that this drip tape is longer than I need. You'll see it's a lot longer than I need. So one of the first things I'm going to do is actually lay it out, see how long I need it to be, and then it's possible to just cut it off and bring the end cap over here without much work. This is how much drip tape I'm going to need. I'm going to cut it off here at the end of this last bag. Then I'll pull the end cap off, stick this back in and tighten it. That's how I'm going to shorten my drip tape. I got my drip tape adjusted to size. So here's our ball valve. Now it's time to insert this end into the hole that we made. This part is a little bit tricky. Sometimes you have to pinch the polytube while you're pushing this in. So you might struggle with it a little bit, but I promise you it will eventually go in there, even with a twisting motion, wiggling. All right, I got the ball valves into the main line. I'm gonna make a little hole in the bags. We wanna prevent water from being wasted in between the bags. So I'll show you a really cool trick where I'm gonna pull the bags together and actually thread the drip tape through a hole that I'll make. And that's gonna help prevent water loss. The drip tape staples that hold those into place, those holes, they're gonna come out the bottom, and that actually becomes our drainage holes. So that's the end of the phase of setting up the irrigation system. I'm super excited, so all that there is left to do now is to test it out. So I'm gonna go turn the water on and we'll see how it works. Well, as you can see, the irrigation system is working. It's a beautiful sight. With a drip system, the water comes out little by little, so you'll actually want to let this soak for a day or two to let the bags really saturate before you start planting. Because anytime you put seeds in, they really want moist soil. So I'm going to do that, and I'll come back in a day or two after these are super moist, and I'll show you what seeds I decided to put in my system. My Ready Go Garden system has been soaking now for 2 days, so it's gathered enough moisture that I can actually get moving forward with the planting. So I've got some flowers that I started from seed a while back. I'm gonna bring those over just to help attract the pollinators, because it's always great to mix in some flowers with your vegetables. A few things I'm gonna do: I'm gonna plant spinach and mint, two leafy greens that I'm really excited about. And just remember, with seeds, they're all a little bit different, so you gotta look it up sometimes or check on the packaging. So like my mint, it just wants to be lightly covered. My spinach is gonna wanna be 1/2 inch deep, and they're all a little different in terms of their spacing. And you'll be able to follow up in 90 days and see how my garden's looking. I'm so excited to have this garden at my place now. Hopefully this stuff's gonna grow and I'll be eating local organic greens in my smoothies that I grew myself. That's gonna be amazing. So if you want more content like this, be sure to follow Urban Farming Education and maybe consider getting one of these gardens for yourself.